Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Yeah, live around the world on this thing we call the internet at michaeldukeshow.com, where you'll find links to everything, including the audio-only podcast, the audio-only stream, and the audio-only podcast, I guess, plus links to our social media sites, including Facebook, YouTube, and I don't think I put the Rumble link up there yet. I just was thinking about that. I don't think I've put the Rumble link up there yet. But anyway, you can go out there and watch any of the links where we simulcast the show, either live while we're doing it, like right now, or later on for the replay, whichever you prefer. Also, of course, we're broadcasting live every day across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or film translator. Hello. How you guys doing on this beautiful Thursday edition of the Michael Dukes Show? We have got we've got a lot to talk about this morning. There has been man, I got to tell you, the next 3 weeks, as you watch this whole thing kind of devolve, should be very, very interesting. As we get closer and closer to Election Day, it's going to be interesting. Let's just put it this way. The desk, you smell that? That's the smell of desperation. And it seems to be coming off of both the Peltola and the Harris campaigns, quite honestly. I know we don't normally handle like national type stuff usually, but boy, even I have caught a whiff of some of the things that just seem to be permeating the campaign of Kamala Harris here. So we might talk about that as we touch base this morning on a bunch of different issues. We're going to dive down into some of the things that are going on with the Peltola campaign, with the Democrats themselves on this. And we're also going to talk a little bit about early voting. And why we seem to have such a hard time, we being conservatives, Republicans, libertarians, independents, people of a more conservative bent, why do we seem to have such a hard time with early voting? I mean, statistically, we don't do well at that. So I guess if if you're watching us on the web this morning and you're in the chat room, maybe you can tell me. I'll go collect up some comments between now and when we tackle this story. Maybe you can tell me why you think we have such a hard time with early voting. And if you don't early vote, why not? So maybe the folks in the chat room can give us a little bit of a slice there. We can crowdsource some of the answers, so to speak, on why that is. Because I mean, I think it's an interesting question. And sometimes it will be because, well, we'll get to that. But I'll tell you why I think it happens and why sometimes I have a hard time early voting. Although, due to circumstances beyond my control, I guarantee you I will be doing some early voting this year. I got a lot of things happening, and I guarantee you we're going to be making some of that happen. We're also going to talk about some of the news reporting. And I'm going to be honest, I'm going to give some kudos. I'm going to give some kudos to some people who might surprise you. I guess we'll jaw jack about that a little bit as well. And of course, lambast some of those who need to be lambasted. And there are a couple right now that I'm shaking my head on, and we'll get to that here in just a few moments. Where do we want to start? Oh, in hour 2. I'm sorry. I guess I should have announced that. In hour 2, we will be visiting with candidate for State House Ron Gillham. Now, he was a former legislator from the Kenai Soldotna area, and he was defeated by Justin Ruffridge last go around, and so now he's up running for re-election. I guess he's not the current incumbent, but he's running for election against Justin Ruffridge, and he is going to be joining us in hour 2, and we will be talking with him about his candidacy. I can't remember the last time we actually talked to Justin Ruffridge. It's been a hot minute since we talked to Justin. So we did in the summer. I remember that because he was out on the front porch of his house doing that. And so I do remember that. We talked to him here sometime during the end of the summer. But anyway, we'll bring Ron Gillham on here the first or the second half of the show, and we'll take it up. We'll keep going. We'll keep going. Couple of quick hits. I'm just at this point, I'm just very thankful that I don't live in Anchorage because, when I first moved down from Fairbanks, my job at the time was in Anchorage. And so for convenience sake, I was like, okay, well, let's see if we can actually live in Anchorage to make this easier. Right. And so I was looking for a place to live, and we came from I don't know, it was a 2,300 square foot house or something. I had 4 kids that were still living with me at the time. We had 3 dogs, the cat, the whistle, the hamsters. No, it wasn't a Noah's Ark situation, but we had some animals and all the things. And so I was looking for something fairly close, right? And it was impossible. It would have cost me $35,000 a year just to house myself trying to live in Anchorage, right? So then I was like, okay, well, maybe I can get a little closer. So I tried Eagle River, which is on the edge of Anchorage. And no, that was $2,700 a month or something. And then so, okay, we'll go to Chugiak, which is just beyond Eagle River. And I just slowly worked my way out until I finally got to someplace in Wasilla where I was like, okay, $17,000 a year in housing. Okay, I can do that. Now I just have to drive. So I did. Anyway, long story short, I ended up in Wasilla. I'm really glad I did because it's much nicer. It's much more very reminiscent of where we lived when we lived in Fairbanks. I lived out in North Pole, kind of out in the sticks a little bit. Much better views, much better weather, the whole thing. I'm just glad I don't live in Anchorage because that place seems to really be coming apart. It's it's kind of crazy. Not only have we had this tremendous spike in crime in the Anchorage area of varying types of crime. We've had more police shootings than just seems like every other week there's a new police shooting. And now we're getting other types of shootings and murders. We've now had the 3rd fatal shooting in Anchorage. This is non-police, just regular fatal people on people crime. And a 16-year-old boy died on Tuesday night after he was shot. And this is the 3rd such crime in as many weeks. And that is just like, what is going on? It's a 3rd in this week. Sorry, I apologize. Not a 3rd shooting in 3 weeks. This is the 3rd fatal shooting this week alone in Anchorage. And I'm not quite sure exactly what's going on, but you want to know why I carry a gun? Well, there you go, my friends. That's why I carry a gun, because holy cow, it's a little iffy. It's a little iffy out there. And so anyway, it's crazy. This kid was shot out in the Mountain View neighborhood, which is not the best neighborhood in Anchorage, for those of you who don't know. They processed the scene and figured out they've identified the teen. They've notified his family, but they don't really have any other information. And this is the third homicide in Anchorage over the past week. Trendon Lewis, 42, was fatally shot near Thompson Avenue and North Bunn Street on Friday. And another man who's not been identified was shot and killed on East 6th Avenue and San Juan Circle early Tuesday. Now, the police say they don't believe there's any connection between all these shootings and that there's no public safety threat associated with Tuesday night's incident, but they're looking for the public's help. This is the 28th homicide this year, according to police records. And I don't know what the tally is as far as how that goes, but man, I'm just glad I don't live in Anchorage right now. Between the rise in crime, the nuttiness from the assembly, the wackadoodle politics going back and forth when it was this massive tug of war between the administration and the assembly. And now, of course, you've got an all unified kumbaya assembly who's going to come behind Mayor LaFrance and basically do whatever she says. And of course, we're going to see, they're already talking about tax increases. They floated a sales tax idea the other day, saying it would raise, even with the exemption, it was going to raise another $180 million in the Anchorage area. I mean, they're just, again, they've never seen a growth of government idea that they didn't enjoy and didn't embrace at every level. So if anybody's listening in the Anchorage area, I guess I'm just asking why would you, why would you, that's why I guess that was, I was telling the story of coming down, I ended up paying half of what I would have paid in Anchorage. What, for the privilege of living in Anchorage? I can handle a little window time every morning and every afternoon as I drive back and forth. I can handle that for a little bit. Even with the gas money that I have to spend and the wear and tear on my car, I'm still spending a fraction of what I would have spent to try and stay in Anchorage. So the question becomes again, why? But as I've said before, we got to pay attention to this stuff because as goes Anchorage, so goes the rest of the state eventually if we're not paying attention. All right, so we're going to talk for just a little bit here on the other side about the tale of two journalists. Well, it's actually three journalists, but the tale of two outlets, I guess, is the answer there. The tale of two outlets. One is the Alaska Beacon. The other is the Anchorage Daily News. And we're going to talk a little bit about the veracity and the intellectual honesty of the various outlets. And we've got some examples here. So it's going to be a good discussion. Anyway, we're going to come back to that here in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Ready to go for that. We're going to jump in, and we'll return. We'll be back with more right after this.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, you savage gentlemen and ladies, what do we got here? Oh, we're all going to Bill's house because Bill made the first batch of caramel corn for the season last night. There will be nothing left when we're done. Sharing is caring. I thought Kevin was talking about sharing the show because, sharing is caring. There's 30 people watching us right now on Facebook and YouTube, and only 8 of you have shared it or liked it or thumbs. I guess I can't really see the shares. I guess I can see the reactions, whether you liked it or you hated it or whatever. So even if you hate the show and you're just hanging out because your boss made you hang out, you should like it and hate it and like it and do whatever. Be angry. There's 30 of you in there and only 10 of you have even reacted to the show. Have I not entertained you? Are you not entertained? I mean, come on, seriously. All right. Rick first thought it was 42 out. Now I've discovered it's 22. It's a little crispy out there this morning. Here at the old Radio Ranch, I turned off part of my thing here so it wouldn't drag down my system. Where is it? Yeah, 24 degrees. All right, there we go. I don't, this is why I turned it off to begin with, because it was, for some reason, I've got a 2 gig connection and it's sucking my bandwidth when I turn on the little widget for Microsoft News. Anyway, Brian says, when I ask why aren't we early voting? And Brian says, because we are optimistic. We are sure we're going to be alive on election day. ? Yeah. So, well, I'm going to get to all these answers here. Let me get here. Yeah, the roads in Fairbanks are nasty. My buddy Perry told me yesterday that it took him an hour and 45 minutes to get from North Pole to Fairbanks. That's like a 20-minute trip. Okay. I mean, that's like a 20-minute trip normally. And I mean, literally, you got video of cars sitting on the road, just stopped, sliding in their lanes because it's just so nasty. Oof. All right. Let's see. Layla's got a comment on why early voting is thing. Did anyone hear Nick Begich on Mark Levin radio yesterday? Oh, I didn't hear that. No, that's a good deal. Don't encourage Anchorage to move, says Terry. They are overtaking the valley. And this is Gary's comment. Okay, I'm going to hold on to that. The lies on these TV ads, says Rick. Yeah, I mean, it's getting bad. It is getting bad, folks. Yeah. Whatever you're turning on, turn it off, said Bill. I did. I turned it on and then turned it off because, dang, as soon as I turned it on, I watched the little meter on my internet thing just go. All right. Okay. Well, I'm all caught up. And I'm glad I don't live in Fairbanks right now. I love my dad and my mom and my family and friends and everything, but you guys, you can have all that. I want less cold and snow in my life. The new overpass slope was not correct and people need to be at speed. You may slide backwards. Yeah, no. And then I guess they don't have guardrails on one side of it, and a couple people have already gone off since they got it built. I mean, I have questions about that overpass. I came back over it the last time I was in Fairbanks, and I was like, what? Anyway, Bosco, my dog. All right, you guys ready? Let's get to it. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Do this thing.
The Michael Duke Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
Okay, welcome back to the program. I'm collecting up some comments here about ranked choice voting. I got a few comments not ranked choice voting. I'm sorry, early voting. Got a one-track mind here. The early voting, and so I've collected up some comments. We're going to go over those here in a minute. But first, I want to talk a little bit about accuracy and intellectual honesty and reporting. So first and foremost, we've got this story from the ADN. Sean McGuire and Ira Samuels. Here's the headline. Alaska House Speaker suggests election bill was blocked because it would have improved rural Alaskans' access to voting. Now, that raised my eyebrow. Really? When? And then I remembered, well, Kathy Tilton was on my show, and lo and behold, Alaska House Speaker Kathy Tilton suggested on a talk radio show that Republican members of the House blocked an election bill because it would have increased the likelihood of Alaska's Democratic Congresswoman holding on to her seat by making it easier for predominantly Alaska Native residents on rural Alaska to vote. On the Michael Duke show last week, Tilton said the election bill was blocked by House Republicans on the final day of the legislative session, said that bill would have benefited Mary Peltola, who is running for re-election against Nick Begich. The bill would have eliminated the state's witness signature requirements on absentee ballots, yada, yada. This is such an obvious hit job because, well, first of all, I was there during that conversation. I don't know if you know that. This is the Michael Duke show, and I was there. That's not what she was saying about. She said that was one of the effects, but that's not why they voted against it. You know, what they failed to make in this article, which is just, again, disingenuous. They failed to mention that this bill was stuffed more than a triple turducken, right? Sarah Vance sent it over to the Senate as a very simple bill. It was just a very simple bill that had to do with cleaning up the voter rolls in a more timely manner. It was one small component of a previously, Mike Shower's previously bipartisan, Mike Shower and Chris Tuck had put this bill together with a bunch of different things in it. And she just basically took the one part of it out, put it into a simple single bill, and sent it over to Kawasaki in his committee on the Senate side. And he proceeded to just stuff. It was like putting 10 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound sack, right? I mean, he just continued to just fill that thing up. So much so that even Sarah Vance had to vote. She had to kill her own bill. She had to vote against her own bill because it was supposed to come back for concurrence. And, you know, sometimes I'll give people a pass on certain things because, you know, maybe they didn't get the whole thing. But I was there during this conversation. Sean McGuire and Ira Samuels, who maybe they have to listen to this show because they're forced to. Shame on both of you. Shame on both of you for this misleading headline, first of all, and the fact that you completely took this entire thing out of context. That was not the reason why they voted against the bill. That may have been an ancillary effect of why they voted against a bill. But this whole thing was about stuffing that bill full of all kinds of other stuff. A very simple bill that then got weighted down with a bunch of partisan issues and then forwarded back over at the very last minute. And it is intellectually dishonest. I'll be honest. You guys both ought to be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed of yourself. Sean McGuire, Ira Samuels, this is intellectual dishonesty. Period. Or you're just in the bag for the other team. One way or the other. Now, the article goes on to then start to talk to some other people. They talk to people from Peltola's campaign. Both Kathy Tilton and Sarah Vance wouldn't respond to the ADN, which at this point I think is probably a good idea. I mean, they at least can't twist your words when you don't respond to them. And then they get into interviewing Bryce Edgmond, which, I mean, Edgmond, he is just out there. He just wants to be speaker again so badly. You can just taste it. he comments on it. You know, of course, they make the point that he caucused with a Republican majority, but supported the legislation. He was part of the majority, and even though the majority voted it down, he supported the legislation. He wanted to tell you that this was important to his people, and he was out there, and it's just, you know, and I'm just like, okay, all right, this is so blatantly obvious at this point that this is just pandering. You know, Edgman wants to get back. This is the play, people. And the news media is in the bag at this point. Not all of the news media, but some of the news media. And the fact that they read that reason out of this whole thing is just, oh. So let me read you the sentence again, just so you know that I'm not taking it out of context. And you can go over to the ADN and you can read the story yourself. Let me just drop this in the let me just drop this link in the chat room so that you can go take a look at it and read it for yourself. You don't have to take my word for it. You can actually go read the article for yourself. But let me just read the thing again. Kathy Tilton suggested on the show that Republican members of the majority blocked an election bill because it would have increased the likelihood of Peltola holding on to her seat by making it easier for predominantly Alaska Native residents of rural Alaska to vote. That's a lie. That's not what she said. She said they voted against the bill because they stuffed it full of BS. And one of those things was the dropping of the signature requirement, which, again, she did then say could benefit Mary Peltola at that point. But that wasn't the reason why. It was because it had been sitting in the Senate for months. And then they pushed it through. And then they rejiggered it and pushed it through. That's what the problem was. They didn't vote for it because it would have helped Mary Peltola. Are you mad? Or are you just so in the bag on these things that that's all you can see? Now, interestingly enough, Scott Kawasaki, whose committee this bill went into, and was the author of all this extra stuff that got pushed into there. Ironically enough, he was asked about why he, why they didn't work this out, why they didn't get all this thing, what's going on. And he said, they ran out of time to, it was a timing issue, just a timing issue. Didn't matter that he Christmas treated up with every little thing that he ever wanted, but he just. So that's the one, that's the, on the one hand, that is the one hand. Then on top of that, just on top of that, we've got, on the other hand, James Brooks. Now, I've had my commentary with James Brooks. I've had my problems occasionally with him, but overall, I have given him a pretty high score. I mean, he gets like a B average, like a B plus maybe normally, right? I'm going to have to mark that up to an A minus at this point. Although I will say that I find it a little irritating that James Brooks, he never credits the show on anything, like ever. He's mentioned the show in a backhanded way like 3 or 4 times, and he never mentions it. And yet every time that I read an article that he writes, I say, this is James Brooks from the Alaska Beacon, and you can go read it over here. James, if you're listening, I mean, come on, man, credit where credit's due, right? We're all working hard here. Anyway, I might have to up his street cred to an A minus, because he put out an article this morning brand spanking new, that I'll be honest, I was a little shocked. Headline reads, Beggage's Ponzi scheme comment on Social Security was taken out of context, the recording shows. What? Political ads claiming that Republican U.S. House candidate Nick Begich labeled Social Security a Ponzi scheme uses a quote taken out of context, according to a July 2023 recording. Now, he is kind enough to link to the YouTube channel for the show, but I don't know if he's under a word constraint or something, and he just can't say according to a recording of the Michael Duke Show. I mean, I'm just looking for a little cross promotion here, James. I send everybody to read your stuff. You'd think that maybe you'd at least give me a wink and a nudge or something. Anyway, that's just a little bitty thing. But he said the quote taken out of context, according to a July 2023 recording. Social Security's trust fund used to pay benefits invest in U.S. government treasury bonds, a low-risk form of investment. Begich criticized that funding approach, saying it amounts to the government buying its own debt. And he said, and I quote, this is a quote from the recording, because we run these huge deficits, we need someone to buy all the debt that we're producing, he concluded. And guess what? That's you through your Social Security. That trust fund has been invested in government debt from the get-go, and it's a Ponzi scheme, and it's used to prop the system up. James Brooks goes on to say Begich's criticism was the way Social Security is funded, not the benefits the program pays. He went on to say that the funding mechanism wasn't a problem when there were many workers for each retiree receiving benefits, but now that the nation's population has aged and the ratio of workers to beneficiaries has dropped, we're going to have a real problem, and you can't keep borrowing at this rate. In last week's debate for the state against incumbent Democrat Representative Mary Peltola, Begich said he doesn't oppose Social Security and goes on to talk about, in context, this is what it is. And then James Brooks talks a little bit about what an actual Ponzi scheme is and why it. But this is integrity, right? I may not always agree with James's point of view, but this is integrity. I will read everything he writes because at least he's intellectually honest to go, well, wait a second. That was taken completely out of context. And now you got the ads where, I mean, my daughter came home last night. She was so mad. She checked the mail and she's like, look at this. And she's got a handful of these full one-page cardboard, hard slickboard flyers. And half of them are talking about how Nick Begich believes in HARP, or he scammed seniors, or it's just attack. And all I smell in the air right now, my friends, is desperation. Desperation on the part of the Democrats because they know there is no other Republican in the race for Nick to lose votes to. And this is basically a one-on-one confrontation with Mary, and they know they are going to lose. So congratulations to James Brooks for being intellectually honest and writing this piece, which I thought was, again, good job, James. My name is Dukes next time. If you want to just, if I had one criticism, that, my friend, would be it. All right, we got to go. We're going to continue. We're going to talk a little bit about early voting and some of the other desperate measures that are coming out. I mean, there is some man, smell that. I love the smell of desperation in the morning in my political opponents. All right, we got more coming up. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Back with more after this.
your mental suppository. The Michael Duke Show.
All right. Oh, I suppose I should have dropped you a link on that story, huh? Let me drop you a link on that story just because I can. Am I going to have Kawasaki on? I've tried to have Kawasaki on several times, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I want to," and then he always ghosts me. So, I mean, I sent an email to his campaign again. This is on them. If somebody has not appeared on this program, it's because they don't want to. Because I sent an email out to every one of their registered addresses that they register with the when they file their application and everything else. And it's listed on the election website, so either it's their personal email or their campaign email or whatever. I send out an email every time asking for it, asking for them to come on and offering it to them, giving them all the options. If they don't show up on this program, it's because they did not want to. And I have had people who said, "Oh, hey, I didn't see your email. Can I get on the program?" Or they call and say, "I'd like to get on the program." I said, "Well, I sent you an email." They said, "Oh, well, I didn't see your email." Okay, well, I guess that does happen. But, they at least reached out to me I'm not hard to find, folks. If you want to be on the program, you can be here. You can be here if you want to be on the program. All right. Sorry. I'm just so agitated by this Sean McGuire and Iris Samuels, this dynamic duo who, basically this is why they voted against it because of this. Wow. Just wow. Not just disingenuous, just an outright falsehood. And again, taken completely out of context with the rest of the conversation. But are most people going to go listen to that? Because they link the show. Let me follow the link here. They're going to the YouTube channel, right? Yep, they're going to the YouTube channel. Nope. See, they don't even mark it for time. It's just they just start at the beginning. They don't even mark it for time when those comments appear, which you can do. You can set it up when you create a link to start at just a specific spot, but they don't want you to go listen to it in context. If they were intellectually honest, they would at least start at the beginning of that question where I ask the question or we start talking about it, where people could listen to it. But instead, they link a 2-hour video and they're like, okay, you got to scrub through it and figure out where it's at. It's just skeezy. It really is. Disingenuous, to say the least. Jeffrey said the reason that people don't want to come on the show is because I'm so mean. It's just that you ain't so mean. It's just that I'm so mean. All right, let me go over here. Scrolling backwards. Kawasaki did the same bit of bill stuffing with Rep Tomaszewski's bill, and the rep had to pull his bill also. Starting to see a pattern with Kawasaki? Sure. Kevin says, since Tilton is running unopposed, one has to wonder, what is the agenda here? Is it about a Bush caucus member wanting to be speaker again? Yeah, it's about Edgman doing his thing. Willie says voting is super easy in a village. No AD needed. Everybody knows everyone. Hard part is ranked choice voting, which confuses everyone. Yeah, no, I'm with you. Yeah. Willie, square table degenerates. Willie, do you not care for ranked choice voting? I read differing things about it. I like it holds people accountable. It doesn't hold people accountable, STD. Square table degenerate. No, that's not what it's about. Kawasaki tried to lie about Leslie Hajdukovic in a recent meme. He's so weak in his meme game. Oh, does Leslie have a mean meme game? Is that how we're doing politics these days? Is memeing? We meme? I gave up on you people trying to spell my last name right. Let's see. I'm going through here. I don't want to appear in your show. I don't want to appear on your show. Get that a lot too, but they don't say it like that. Okay. Barbara Hayden, again, the membership of this place, yada, yada, yada. The beard is intimidating. Politicians fear the beard. That's what they do. Politicians fear the beard. I love that button. I just love that button so much. All right. Let's get going on.
The Michael Duke Show. Seriously humorous with a pinch of intellect. Sorry. That is humorous. Here's Michael Dukes.
Okay. I'm a slave to my listeners. I'm just going to say that right now. I'm a slave to my listeners. I was just going to jump into this whole thing about early voting, and I've got a lot of input from not a lot. There's some input from the chat room, and I was about to just kind of go on to it solo, but somebody just said, please launch the phones and bring the phones up and maybe take some phone calls on this. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to open the phone lines up right now, and we'll let you call in if you want to ask, why. We'll do that. Jeannie wanted the phone, so we'll open the phone lines up and we'll put them in right now. So phone lines are open at 319-527-3864, 319-527-3864. If you want to call in and tell me why you early vote or you don't early vote, I'd love to hear what you have to say on it. We're also going to talk about some of this desperation play real quick. But Jeannie, if you had something else you wanted to talk about, I'm open the phones, so you can jump in there and do it. But here's the smell of desperation. Here is the absolute, can you smell it from here, desperation. The Democrats are working hard because they are in a full-on collateral panic about what's going on with the numbers, because they see that Mary Peltola is falling behind. When it's a one-on-one race, baby, it's pretty obvious what's going to happen. They are now on record pushing messages to conservative male voters to only vote for the third-party candidate, John Wayne Howe. Now, John Wayne Howe's been on the program. Super nice guy. Really like him. Kind of a libertarian, Alaska Independence Party guy. The Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee accidentally publicized instructions to its operatives and supporters on how to defeat Nick Begich. How are they going to do it? Well, by tricking Republicans and conservative men. Here's what the DCCC is advising its network of operatives and political groups and wonks to do. Quote, white men under the age of 60 without a college degree who are either very likely to be Republican or slightly more likely to be Republican than Democrat, who are not pro-choice or registered Democrats, and who live in the Anchorage and Fairbanks media markets, including South Central Alaska, need to see ads narrowly targeted to them on digital platforms like Meta, Twitter, YouTube, and programmatic CTV, cable TV. And here's the message that they need to have in there. John Wayne Howe is a Fairbanks native who's running for Congress to keep Alaska for Alaskans and make sure the government does not interfere with Alaska's freedoms. Howe believes that a man-made climate change is bad science and that we need to rapidly expand oil production here in Alaska for Alaskans. He will always stand for the Second Amendment and opposes any restriction on the right to bear arms. This message will be put out and will be inundated for the next 3 weeks leading up to Election Day in order to trick those who are of the age of 60 who do not have a college degree into not voting for Begich. They're also saying it's important that people who vote for John Wayne Howe rank him first and do not consider any other choices. You see what they're doing here? To which I say, Hafner 2024. That's right. I'm going to vote Eric Hafner first and Mark Begich second. Why? Because the second place finisher always seems to win in ranked choice voting. The second, your second choice always seems to win. But this is how desperate they are. They're out there pushing a guy who got 0.5% of the vote. They're going to expend dollars on. It's insane. It's madness. Madness. All right. Jeannie's on the line. And I opened the phones just for her. So let's see what she has to say. Good morning, Jeannie. What's on your mind?
Good morning, Michael. I just wanted to say, if there's anybody, any politician that's afraid to go on your show, it's because of what they're doing and they have a conscience. They just don't want you to know they do. They feel crappy because of what they're doing. That's the only reason to fear Michael Dukes. I went on your show for the first time as a candidate, and I felt like, wow, this guy's actually kind of for me. He's not going to eat me. He's not a wolf. So don't be a sheep.
Right. Well, look,
Michael Dukes interview.
Yeah, no, look, even people that I disagree with, I'm polite to. We have conversations.
Right.
I can agree to disagree. This is not, I don't chew people up and talk over them and yell at them, even if I don't agree with them. I don't believe in that kind of stuff. That's why I like long form, because I believe it gives us a better opportunity to get to know people. But yeah, anybody who doesn't come on the show, they're just not trying. They just don't want to show up because I think they don't want to have the questions asked of them. They don't want to go on the record over certain things.
Right. Has Jesse been on your show yet?
Jesse Bjorkman? No. No. Yeah. I have not seen Jesse Bjorkman. I don't know if he did appear on the show one time. I don't think he's now you're going to make me go back and look at my calendar and my spreadsheet to remember it, because I know that he did come on one time early on, but I don't remember if it was during his original campaign run or if it was his thing here. Let me see what no results found. It says for Senator Jesse Bjorkman. Let me just look. I'll just search up the name just in case. And no results found. I'll have to go back and look to see from date to date, what participant, organizer, name. That's it. Yeah, no. Apparently, I think I have one time, but I don't recall. I'll have to go back and look at it.
Yeah, and so
yeah, but it's been a long time if I haven't. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and I want to goad him just a little bit to come on the show and say what you have to say to your constituents. And don't be afraid of your truth. And don't twist the truth to defame your opponent. That's not how mature politicians work. Talk about you.
Right.
Don't talk about them.
Yeah, you're talking about his jab about the tax thing for Carpenter. Yeah, again, that's the desperation. They know they can't win on the facts, and so they mislead. They either attack your character or they put misleading stuff out there, and that's what happens. All right, Jeannie. Well, thank you.
And all of the
go ahead.
I said all of the 1630 project ads that you see, dig into it.
Yeah,
they are just flat, filthy rich people trying to get NEA's people in office.
Yeah. Yep. All right, Jeannie. Well, thank you so much for your call. Let me go over here. Bob has been holding on the line. Bob, what's on your mind? Hello. Hello.
Oh, hello. This is Leslie Hadukovich in Fairbanks.
Hello, Leslie Hadukovich in Fairbanks. I'm sorry. How are you doing? What's happening?
Yeah. Hey, Mike, how's it going?
I'm I'm doing real good. What's on
Hello?
what's on your mind this morning?
Hey, yeah. So I was just a friend told me that maybe you were talking about the forum that I had up here in Fairbanks with my opponent Scott Kawasaki. As you know, I'm running for state senate.
Yep. I mean, I know that he was asked some questions there that he had a hard time answering. I know that for sure.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I just wanted to set the record straight that one of the questions that was asked of us that they do in the, like the speed yes, no questioning is that one of the questions that was asked was, would I support a spending cap at the state level? And unfortunately, I raised the wrong card. I said no, but of course I would. So anyways, I just wanted to set that record straight. But yeah, it was a great debate and the campaign's going good and just looking for the next 3 weeks to finish strong.
Well, good. Well, I hope you do well. Maybe we'll try and have you back on one more time before we get close to the end there, because as I said, I'd offered to Scott to come on the program, and he's been on the show in the past, but yeah, he hasn't been on the show in a couple of years now because well, I don't know reasons, but we'll see what comes of it. All right, Leslie, thank you so much. I'll reach out to you here soon. I got one more call before we run out of time. Good morning, Bubba. Who's this? Where are you calling from? Hello. Go ahead. Randy?
Oh, hey, this is Randy in
Okay.
Fairbanks.
I was just going to say, I thought it was the other Randy. Hello, Randy. How are you?
Oh, yeah, I am the other Randy. Anyway, you're talking about voting early. I have started doing that lately now as often as I can because 2 times I went to my polling place and granted, I have 3 names, first, middle, and last, that could be construed as either first, middle, or last, depending on how you look at it. But when you go check in to vote, you give them your ID, and so they should be looking up your last name. They twice now they kept looking up my first name, and I thought, gee whiz, I think these guys don't know what they're doing.
Right.
So I just go vote early now.
Yeah, because it's less frustrating and it makes it easier. And yeah, maybe there should be some education that it's last name, first name. Even if my last name is a first name, you need to figure it out for sure. All right, Randy. Well, thanks.
I used to do, yeah.
Oh, hold the line for just a second, Randy. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Back with more. Hour 2 dead ahead. Ron Gillham, our guest.
Goodbye.
Okay. I think we touched a nerve. There. Michael Dwayne Beck says, no, you'll ask questions, not padded ones in softballs. I mean, I try and be as gentle with some of the questions, but I don't, and I try and nail people down as best I can while remaining polite. That's kind of the point. Right? I mean, that's kind of what you're supposed to do. Hand-waving freakoutery does an excellent dissection of the meme phenomenon, says Brian. If you don't read hand-waving freakoutery, you're missing out on some good stuff. There is some good stuff there. Jeez. Bill, liberal desperation smells like urinal cakes with cigarette butts at 2 a.m. Oh, man, that's something that I can't get out of my head. They have no conscience. Jeannie was a picnic, only picnic. Barbara says, no, we have to get Nick to 50% on the round one, so please pick Nick. Well, I mean, yeah, okay. I mean, Barbara. Let's see. Greetings. Unfortunately, Bjorkman blocked me from commenting on his page. Bjorksman, the tax man. Ben Carpenter for Alaska has been a solid defender of the PFD. Bjorkman is not. Bjorkman quickly blocked me for his lying campaign page. He cannot defend his lies. The truth. Blah, 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 blah. No, I mean, Bjorkman is not going to come on the program. Now I'm thinking about it. I need to go back and look because I know I've had him on the program. And I see Ron is in the green room. I'll be here. What are you doing? Let me close some of these other windows here. Oh, man. Early voting. All right. Closing. I got 73 windows open or some kind of crazy stuff. All right, there we go. Boom. I'm in my podcasting thing. Search. Let me see if I could search my own. Can I? Oh, I should have searched my own tracks. I freaking hate that. Okay. I just wanted to know when I had him on. That was my question. Can I see that? Can I search my own tracks? Can I? I mean, there's only 200,000 minutes uploaded, is what it just says there. Okay, let me try this again. Nope. I'm pretty sure that I interviewed Bjorkman like way back in the day. All right. Well, nope. It doesn't look like I've talked to him in a hot minute, at least not in the last year. So we'll see what goes through here. All right, let me flip some switches and push some buttons here, and we'll do some testing. Ron Gillham is going to be our guest this morning. Let's bring him on board. Hey, Ron, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you, Michael?
Good. All right. Well, audio's good, video's good, everything looks good. You ready to dive into this and get started?
Let's do it.
Okay, good. We're about a minute and a half out, so I'll be right back to you. Don't go anywhere. Ron Gillham. Don't eat all those donuts, Ron. Jeez, man. It's like second that I think he's got. Oh, he does have a box of donuts. That's evil, man. That's evil. You know I like me a donut every now and then. Donna says that Bjorkman blocked. How could I thought? Isn't Kevin? Weren't you being sued for blocking somebody from your Facebook page? Your official or your I mean, how can Bjorkman go around blocking people? Somebody else said somebody else was blocking them from their page too. I'm like, how can you? I mean, isn't that wrong? Isn't that being, Taya Winger says that Jesse blocked her and she said, I never interacted with his page. Okay. I mean, that's a little proactive. We're going to do a preemptive strike. We're gonna block her before she ever has a chance to say anything. I mean, anybody who can't take a little heat on their Facebook page, who can't argue back, or who can't, who just is going to block somebody for asking a question, that's not the kind of people you want representing you. I'm just saying. I mean, I'm just saying. if you're a representative and you're out there and you're running a campaign and you just block somebody because they ask you a simple question, that's not a good look. I mean, it's not a good look. Cindy says Bjorkman blocked me too, and I didn't figure out how many people have gotten blocked by Bjorkman that nobody said anything about. Here we go.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Welcome back to the program. It is hour 2 of the big radio show today. We just finished up with a round robin of various topics. It was good stuff. You should go back and listen to it if you missed it on the podcast, available at Spotify. There you go. Just go over there to Spotify. You can find the podcast there. You can find it on iTunes, Google Play, Castbox, Stitcher, wherever you find podcasts. You can just put my name in there and you'll find it, and then you can download it. You can also, of course, go back and watch the replay on Facebook or YouTube or Rumble, and that's another way to go watch and enjoy the show as well. Finally, we're broadcasting live across the state of Alaska on this your favorite radio station and or FM translator. So come on down and just enjoy it. We're having a good time. All right, hour 2 is now, and we're joined in the green room right now by a candidate for State House, former Representative Ron Gillham joins us to talk about his candidacy and his campaign, and he's with us this morning to chit-chat about that. Good morning, my friend. How are you doing?
I am doing great, Michael. How about yourself?
You know, another beautiful day in paradise. It's only 27 degrees here, so I'm just thankful that it was raining so hard last night. All I could think of was that if it got cold, we were going to have more snow, but I don't have snow this morning, so life is good for the moment. Ron, it's been a while since we talked, and I know you've been hot and heavy both with your day job and working the campaign trail. So we want to catch up with you a little bit here. Give folks who don't know, who haven't been paying attention, give folks a little bit of your background, who you are, where you came from, and then let's talk a little bit about the candidacy and the campaign, and we'll go from there.
Okay. So I'm Ron Gillham. I was in the last session the representative. Been in Soldotna for right at 40 years. My wife and have 2 kids. I hate to say this, but I'm originally from California, but that's a good place to be from. So,
yes,
but it wasn't the same state. Yeah. It's like the Democrat Party. It's not the same as it used to be. So, yeah, I'm in this for my grandkids and future generations. What I see happening to this state is not good. And, you know, like I said, I have a good day job. I run heavy equipment on the North Slope for the Willow Project. So I've got, 7-8 years up there in front of me. And this is for my grandkids. I have 3 granddaughters and a grandson. So this is all about them. The people that I've met from last time, such as yourself, that's what made this all worthwhile. And,
right.
So this is, if somebody wants to be in this for personal gain, this is a wrong business. So,
Yeah.
get a good job.
Yeah,
But
it's a tough situation. I mean, I know Ron blames me a little bit for this because I know back in the day when I was on the air only in Anchorage, he was listening to the show we were broadcasting, and it was broadcast up on the North Slope, and he sent me a message or called me or whatever and said, "I blame you because I basically said, if not you, then who? And then if not now, then when?" This was to all the listeners, and Ron took it to heart, and that's why you ran to begin with. And then of course you ran again, were defeated by Ruffridge, and you're coming back again for another bite at the apple. What do you want to do, Ron? What is what is your goal here to come back to the legislature to do more? You obviously felt like you still had more to do. What's your goal here as you come back into the legislature if you're reelected? Where do you stand on that? What is the point here?
well, I have a few different goals. I started quite a few things when I was down there before, and I didn't get to finish any of them. Of course, being in a minority, they control the chairs, and unless they want, even if they like your bill, they some of them just actually wouldn't bring it out. So I want to go back, hopefully be in a majority, and get some of the things started or finished that I started. One of them was getting rid of property taxes for seniors. If somebody's 65 years old, they paid enough taxes through their 40 or 50 years worth of working that give them a break. There's no reason that they should have to rent their property from the government, and that's basically what you do. So that's one goal. Another one is to help stop the pink slips. I mean, every year you hear this, oh, we're going to get fired, we're getting the pink slips. Well, there's a very simple fix to that, and I had a bill to do that. And that is just if the budget's not passed, just revert back to the previous year and with that budget. And then once the budget's passed, then you level everything out. So it's a very simple bill to fix, and then that gets rid of the pink slips. But then if you do that, that doesn't give NEA a chance to hold it against you.
Right. You're talking about the ploy that's used many times and almost every year where they say the budgets for the schools are coming out at the same time the budget for the legislature is, and they write their budgets and they say, well, look, we're going to have to lay off all these teachers because we don't have enough money. And it's a ploy to put more pressure on the legislature to pass a fully funded with more money for teachers. It's political theater, but they've lined it up that way on all the contracts and all the budget cycles so that they can always say, we're firing all these teachers because you didn't give us enough money. And then everybody screams and the legislature gives them more money.
Exactly. And that would stop this, and they don't like that. So like I said, it takes that hammer away from them. So I think that's two pretty good bills that if I can get them passed, it would help.
Right.
Another thing is you know as well as most people in Alaska, we have issues with our fisheries. And there's a bill that actually Dave Tallarico had penned, 8 years ago. It's an enhancement bill. The way the law is written, it says hatchery. Well, with a hatchery, you have to have according to Fish and Game, you have to have a Fish and Game personnel and a biologist standing at each so-called hatchery. Well, if you change that to an enhancement, then in my opinion, go down to the college and get some of these college students that are wanting to get a fisheries degree, have them take care of these enhancement boxes. Now, this will work. It actually worked in Chickaloon. The Chickaloon Native tribe did it on their own, and it takes 5 years to come to fruition. But in 5 years, they had fish return. So it does work. It's worked in Oregon. It's worked in Northern California. It's worked in Washington. So it does work. So if we're going to fix our fisheries, then we need to start looking at a solution and pointing fingers at the trawlers. Granted, they are a big problem, but you can only go so far. And the state has control of 3 miles. Feds have control of 200 miles. And I'm sure these fish travel over 200 miles, but there's got to be something someplace to start. And I think this enhancement is a place to start. So it's
Ron Gillham is our guest, candidate for House District 7. Ron, we had a lot of big issues that came through in this last session. And so if you had still been there, let's talk about a few of those issues. One of them obviously was the school BSA issue, where they wanted to raise the BSA. They got a raise in the BSA, just not what they wanted. They wanted a $1,400 raise in the BSA, which would have cost several $100 million more. And they were unhappy about what they got. Where would you have been on this? Where would you have been on this bill from the get-go? What is your position on how we fix the educational funding woes in the state of Alaska?
Well, Alaska is 10th. And let me back up. The teachers are the 10th highest paid teachers in the country. We are second highest per capita per student, but yet we're on the bottom. I would not have supported the bill, mainly because we have asked since I was down there for accountability, and we're not getting it. So until we start getting some kind of accountability on where the funding's going, don't come to me with your handout. Give me something that, like I said, I run heavy equipment, and if I go up there and I'm tear things up, I can't go to my boss and say, "Hey, give me a raise." You have to have accountability, and we're not getting it. So until we start getting that accountability, then come back and talk to me. But
what's your idea for account? I agree. I think there needs to be accountability, and in some cases, it could be the metrics of how the students are scoring, et cetera, et cetera. But what do you see as a good way to hold them accountable, or any new monies that you might give them to have some accountability baked into that? What's your thought on that?
Well, you can't have, they're way top heavy on administration. And, we have schools that are running 50% combined schools. We can't afford to keep funding schools that don't have enough kids. So you combine the schools together. I know here in Soldotna, they closed down one school. They put kids into the other high school, Skyview, and made a middle school out of it. So they can combine the schools. And that's a good place to start.
Right.
Like I say, look at the administration. If you are top heavy in administration, then, go in and ask the administration, "Hey, we have lack of teachers. You guys were teachers. Would you like to step into that position?" Don't threaten them with being fired. Just say, "Hey, we have to put you into a different position."
Right. Ron Gillham is our guest. We're coming up against the break, so we're going to take a quick one. And when we come back, we will continue with him here on the program. The Michael Duke Show continues. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Again, Ron Gillham, our guest. We'll return with more right after these messages. Don't go anywhere.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, Ron Gillham is our guest. We're here in the commercial break right now, just you and me and all this stuff. Chris says the gutless house wouldn't even pass Ron's hobo gym day bill. So that's kind of sad. If you've got any questions for Ron, now is the time to ask them, and I will we'll see if we can get them here to Ron during the commercial break. Tracer over on Rumble says, I like Ron's enhancement plan for fish hatcheries, while Frank says hatcheries are not the answer, they are the problem. So I don't know why he thinks hatcheries are the problem, not the answer. What's your thought on that, Ron?
Well, like I said, they're all thinking hatchery. It's not a hatchery. It is an enhancement. You have these boxes that go into the stream. You milk your buck and your hen into these boxes, and when the fry are born, you pick the box up and the fish go out. They never leave the natural stream. A hatchery, they're raised in a concrete pen. That's the difference. So and you would have to have quite a few of these, but it is not a hatchery. It is an enhancement.
So it's an actual, I mean, it's kind of like a natural hatchery, right? Instead of an artificial one. It's like right there on the riverbank kind of thing.
I guess you can call it that.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to. When you use the word enhancement, people are like, "What?" I mean, it goes right over their head. But basically, what you're describing is a micro hatchery on the riverbank in the water where the fish are living anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, that's an interesting.
That's what you call it.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting concept. It's a natural. It's not an artificial where you take them to a big building and then you truck them out and then you pump them out of a big tank into the river. They're actually in the water. In the same environment where everything else is. That's an interesting, I mean, it's an interesting concept. I didn't realize that some people in some places were doing that, but to me, that would make more sense for sure on that.
It would take a lot of them, and you can do it in every stream. It's not in one spot. So this would help the Yukon River bring their fish back. It would help the Susitna, the Deshka, the Kenai. It would help all these rivers. But biggest issue is there's always been this rift between sports and commercial fishermen, and they are going to have to work together to make this work. So you've got the tribes, you've got the sport fishermen, the commercial fishermen, the subsistence fishermen. They're all going to have to work together to make this work. And it's going to take minimum 5 years for it to come around. So, but you know what? It may work, it may not. We don't know exactly, but it's a place to start. And right now, we're not doing anything. Everybody's pointing fingers. Get the trawlers. No, let's do something.
Well, I mean, look, I'm not 100% up on the fisheries questions and issues, quite honestly. I used to commercial fish when I was younger. I spent a season and a half commercial fishing. And I do know that, I mean, commercial fishermen, one boat could take enough fish to take care of most of the sport fishing, right, in a single year on a single river if they're a big boat. So there has to be a balance there. I do know that because I've seen the amount of fish being pulled by one or two boats, and it's a significant amount. So we need to find a way to balance that out because Alaskans need to have access for subsistence and for sport, and still give the commercial guys the ability to draw from it with a sustainable yield. That's the problem, is the sustainable yield.
Yep. Yeah. I have lots of friends that are commercial fishermen. I have lots of friends that are sport fishermen. And, I was a charter operator for a long time and actually quit for two reasons. One is because government started targeting the tourism and with the way they were taxing them. And it got so convoluted that if you fished out of this area, you had to charge this amount of tax. If you fish out of this area, it's another percentage. And when they finally said you can only have the number of people fishing that you have paying customers, I thought, well, that's enough for me. Yeah. So,
hold on. The ding means we're about to rejoin. So let's get back to it. We can pick this conversation up on the other side. I'll ask you a question here regarding fisheries, and we'll continue on with this thought. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
Public enema number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke Show.
Yep, that's me. Pain in the whatever. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Ron Gillham is our guest, candidate for State House in District 7. we were just talking about fisheries issues when we were in the break there, and Ron was talking about this enhancement, which I didn't understand until he explained it a little better. The enhancement idea, which you said Chalista and some other areas of the country have been using, essentially this enhancement is a natural micro hatchery it's in the river itself. It's not we're taking fry to a small facility and putting them in concrete blocks and then pumping them into tanks and then putting them back in the river later on. These are small boxes where the insemination or the fertilization of the eggs happens right there in the river in a box, and when the fry are ready to go, they just lift the box and they're already in the river. They've been living in the same environment. I mean, that to me, that seems like a natural, an ideal natural situation. But we were talking about the tug of war between commercial fish and the sport subsistence side of the world, that there's got to be a balance there. And that balance can be tough, especially for sustainability.
Exactly. Like I said, I have friends that are commercial. I have friends that are guides. And, for many years, I was a charter operator. And I have seen this battle since I moved to Alaska. And since then, I've never seen anybody come up with what could be a solution. They just keep pointing fingers at each other. So, like I said, this enhancement, it has worked in the lower states. It worked at Chickaloon. So, it's about a 5-year program before it will actually come around. But it's not, I guess it's not guaranteed, but it's a place to start. And right now, I don't see anybody looking for a solution. All they're doing is pointing fingers. So we have to do something that should get this, got to fly. But we have to do something that should help all fishery groups. And I think this will do it. But it's going to take all the groups together to make it happen. One group can't go in and say, we're going to do this, but because if that happens, they're going to say, well, it's our fish. Well, no, this has to be a combined, all user groups together. The tribes, sport fish, commercial, subsistence, they all have to come together. And my proposal in this bill, there's some wording in it that I want to change. And I would like to have 2 individuals from each of these groups and then one person. So it's an odd number, so you can never have a tie. So maybe chosen by the governor or chosen by the group that would make this odd number. But that way you'd never have a tie on any of the
right
suggestions being made.
Yeah, exactly. Ron, let's go back to some of the issues that was facing the legislature in the last session. Defined benefits, that got through the Senate, but it died in the House. And you could see already that there's a lot of people who are running specifically on returning defined benefits to state employees. The big problem for a lot of us, of course, is the unknowns, the cost unknowns. And the problem with defined benefits is that you can't really know what the cost of the program is going to be 20 years from now, but we can base it on past performance. We can look at inflation. We can see what this is. And a lot of us are very concerned about indebting us, since we still have a $7 billion deficit as far as unfunded liabilities for the previous defined benefits program. What's your stance on that? Is that something that you would support, or do you think the defined contribution is fine? Does the defined contribution need to be buffed up? What needs to happen in your mind?
Well, I'm against the defined benefits. That bankrupted GM and almost bankrupted Alaska. But what I don't want is for my kids and my grandkids and my great grandkids to have to pay for Jesse Bjorkman's retirement. And that's what that would do. It forces my kids to pay for all of the other government employees' retirements. And, my, future generations, unless you're in government, you don't have a guaranteed retirement. But it would force you, even though you wouldn't have retirement, it would force you to pay for government employees' retirements. And that is wrong. So, I understand that government employees do not pay Social Security. Well, maybe we need to look at that. I pay Social Security. Maybe we can, implement where government employees would pay Social Security. I know my opponent, he ran on implementing the defined benefits. And like you said, we're still $7 billion in debt from the last time they had this. And that's been 10, 12 years ago that it went away.
Yeah, 10 years ago, 2014 is when they, 2013, 2014 is when they eliminated the final tier and moved to a defined contribution plan. There's been suggestions that, defined contribution is just like what we do, right? In the private sector, we may get, not everybody, because not every company pays into it, but if they can, they'll pay into a 401k with you, or they'll match you or whatever. And so the suggestion is maybe we need to buff up the defined contribution plan to make it more attractive. If we can't include Social Security, then maybe we offset it with a larger payment to their retirement plans, because that's a one-time payment that when it's won, it's done. And then they control their own destiny as far as their own retirements moving forward.
Yeah. And another thing about the defined contribution is, say a police officer or even a school teacher or fireman, they decide that after 10, 11 years, they decide they want to do something different. Well, they can take their retirement with them. Defined benefit, they lose it. They are tied to that job until they retire. And so basically the union controls them until they retire. No matter how disappointed they are in the job, they're tied to it. And I would just as soon have a retirement that I could take with me from one company to another.
Right. Yeah, something that's portable definitely seems to make more sense. Let's talk about the third big issue, which came up and really we didn't get any resolution on. It's something that you may be a little bit more familiar with since you work in the oil and gas industry anyway. And that, of course, is the discussion on cook inlet gas. There's been a lot of, of weeping and wailing and crying about how we're running out of gas in the cook inlet, that the cost for energy and for heating for people who live on the rail belt who are plugged into the system are going to be faced with higher costs. And the solution, of course, is that the producers come back to the legislature and say, well, we need something more. And there's been a lot of things on the table, whether we need to import gas, because the studies have shown so far that that's still the cheapest alternative, or if we need to create subsidies or credits or payments or whatever to incentivize them to go out and do what they're supposed to be doing with the wells and with the areas anyway. What's your position? What are your thoughts on the potential gas shortage in the Cook Inlet?
Well, I don't believe that the government should be handing out money to keep them working. I mean, they're private industry. So if private industry wants to grow, they're going to do what they need to do to grow. If you're going to give the gas companies money to grow their business, why not give a construction company money to grow his business? It's basically the same thing. So I am against the government, giving money to keep a company trying to find the gas. As far as import, I don't know exactly if we could do it, but import gas from the lower states. We don't have to get it from another country, but I don't know how the Jones Act would come into effect on that. I don't know.
Yeah, the problem is that there's no U.S. flagged LNG tanker ships, and so that's part of the problem. But I mean, even if we did have to import it from Indonesia or around the Horn somewhere else, they're still saying it's potentially cheaper than trying to do all these other things. I mean, I would love to have Alaska gas. I would love for it to come out of the Cook Inlet or find some way to make it down off the North Slope. But at the same time, it's got to make economic sense, right? I mean, it can't just be subsidized by the government, it being the only way for it to be economically feasible. The free market has got to be able to do something like that and show it. And so if importing gas, even for the 10-year short term, makes more sense, maybe that's something we should look at.
So let me rephrase subsidized by government. Government doesn't make money. We produce the money. So subsidized by the government means that people pay higher price. That is just fact. So I am, like I said, I'm not for subsidizing these companies come in. I do know that when they built the pipeline to Valdez from Prudhoe, they put the infrastructure in for a gas pipeline. So the infrastructure is there.
Right.
I don't know how the permitting would have to take place because things have changed since 1970s. But if we can get government to kind of say, hey, we did this then, we can go ahead and do it now, they would take a lot of the cost and a lot of the time away from putting the gas line in. And we got trillion cubic feet of gas on the slope. So maybe we start looking at that. But in the meantime, we start, import LNG to offset what we do not have here. I know over here off of Bridge Access Road, there's a holding facility for gas because I worked on it, and I couldn't figure out why they were drilling gas wells there. And they said, no, it's not drilling holes. It is putting gas back into the ground to save for the future.
Yeah, they're warehousing. Right. Yeah, they're warehousing it. And the Marathon facility, they say, can be turned around to become a gasification, a degasification plant rather than a gasification plant. So, there are options on the table. But again, the problem is that the first reaction, it seems to me, from a lot of legislators, both on the left and the right, is that, if we just give them some money and either in the form of royalty relief or tax credits or something, that will keep them going. And again, it's this emotional tie to we can only use our own gas, not use somebody else's, seems to be, to me, it's ridiculous. If it's cheaper to import the gas now and wait for the metrics and for the economics to catch up, then that seems to be good. Just sit on what we've got until it's economically feasible to move forward and take it from where it's cheaper in the meanwhile. That makes economic sense to me.
Yeah. Well, like I said, the people are going to pay one way or another. So you can either pay higher prices or lower prices. But, you have a bird feeder, stick a bird feeder on your porch. You get one bird come in, then you get another one coming, then you get another one. Well, government's same way. Once you give them handouts, they're going to want more. They're going to want more. So don't start giving that. Just say, hey, if you guys want to do this, private enterprise, then, do it. But,
let the market decide.
Let the free market do what it does. Let private industry do what private industry does.
Well, we'll have to see how that works out. We're coming up on the next break, and in the next one, we'll give Ron his head. He could talk about whatever he wants to talk about with his campaign or where he wants things to go, or any of the other things. We're going to continue here in just a minute. Ron Gillham is our guest. Candidate for State House in District 7. We'll return with more in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based. Free Thinking Radio.
Listened to by more staffers in Juneau than any other show, because their bosses told them to. And after what they just heard, oh man, they're going to be pissed.
You're a bad, bad man.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, Ron Gillham is our guest. Let me go back here. There was a question. I was just looking. I didn't save the question. Somebody asked, and I think it was Cindy, who asked, should the state, this is back on fish again. I'm scrolling backwards here to see if I can find the exact wording, but essentially, should the state buy out set netters? I'm paraphrasing what she said here. Should the state buy out set netter permits to reduce the number, I guess, is the question. Is that something you've looked at, Ron?
I don't agree with that. From Main reason is you buy the set netters out and the fish numbers go down, and then you're buying out the drifters, and then you're buying out the charter boats, and then you're buying out the lodges. So no, that there again, it's free market, and let the market do what it does. So I don't agree. That was a past senators thing.
Here was, should the state buy out the set net sites? That was the question from Sandy. So
No.
should the state buy out the set net sites? Yeah.
No, I don't believe they should.
Teresa said, I hope the comments aren't being shadow banned. No, I don't. They're not being shadow, but not by me. Maybe by the algorithm or something, but not by me, Teresa. She also asked, just so people don't put lots of steelhead into the streams like Idaho did decades ago, not realizing that steelhead prey on salmon. Yeah, let's not put a predatory species in the same group with our main fishery result.
Can I say something there real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the Kenai River normally has about 90,000 rainbow trout in it, and rainbow are also a predatory fish, and they are not letting them keep the rainbows. They do a catch and release on the upper part of the river, and they say that number now is up to 180, 190,000. So it's over twice a sustainable number. So we need to start getting some of them rainbows out because they are eating the eggs. And some of the upper river trout fishermen are fighting that. They want to keep that catch and release fishery going. So, if we can get rid of some of the rainbows, maybe that'll help.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. If you've got two different predatory species, this is the management issue, right? I mean, this is like wolves and caribou,
exactly,
or wolves and moose. So you've got to, if the predator population is spiking, you need to bring it down so that you can bring the non-predator species back up to an equilibrium.
Yep,
that's what they need to be doing. Absolutely,
exactly.
We're going to have Harold on the program probably next week. But I mean, some of the things we're going to remember, some of the things he said. If it could, the free market would bring back slavery. Okay. All right. I mean, that's okay. All right. Let me see if there's anything else here that any other questions. You said, that it shouldn't just be the trawlers that are blamed. And I think Teresa is in agreement with you. She said earlier in the year, some woman at the Davos World Economic Forum said to criminalize fishing and farming. Every time I hear about trawlers being banned, I figure that's what it is in part driving that movement. Look, I mean, I've seen what trawlers do firsthand. And I do know that they can be very destructive. I think that should be a very selective thing. I am concerned about the damage that trawlers do, not just to the populations, but to the biome itself, to the environment itself. So, I mean, I think that, I'm not saying you outright ban them, but there should definitely be some strictures on it. Like I said, there has to be a balance between the commercial fishing side and the sport subsistence fishing side. There needs to be a balance so that everybody wins and the levels remain sustainable. Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely correct. And bottom line is we're all just trying to make a living. And we're only doing what we're allowed to do. And I've always said that if a person was allowed to put a net in the Kenai River to catch their yearly fish anywhere in the river, then they would do it. But, everybody's just trying to make a living. The guys use a single hook and the commercial guys use a net. So, it's a delicate balancing act is what it is. And
yeah.
So I know a few years ago, I heard that the Japanese had a single net that was 70 miles long. Now, this is hearsay, so don't take it as gospel. But if you had a net that was 70 miles long and you have a run of Kenai fish, it has 60, you gotta wait.
No,
so it has 60,000 fish.
Yeah.
That one net could wipe the whole run out.
Yeah. No, that's a lot. 70 miles. That's a lot of net. You're catching a lot of fish with it. All right. No, I wasn't a dirty dragger. I was a longliner, but I did pull up alongside plenty of draggers to see what they looked like, and it was kind of crazy what they were pulling up. So I was not a dragger myself, but I have seen what they can do. All right, Ron Gillham is our guest, The Michael Duke Show. Here we go.
The Michael Duke Show. Seriously humorous with a pinch of intellect. Sorry. That is humorous. Here's Michael Dukes.
Yep. Welcome back to the program. Ron Gillham is our guest, candidate for State House in District 7, running again for, I guess not re-election. He's a former legislator, but has sat out the last session and is now back running for his previous seat again. I wanted to give him this last segment to kind of talk about, well, any of the things that he is passionate about or things that he's concerned about, differences between he and his opponent, or anything else that comes to mind. Ron, I just turn the floor over to you for a minute here. You know, what's on your heart here as you look at what's going on here in the state of Alaska?
So first of all, my opponent and I don't have a whole lot in common. I am a strong conservative Republican, and he will join the Democrats if given the chance. So with that being said, I have a concern, and I really haven't heard a whole lot of people talking about it, and that is how close we are to becoming a Democrat-controlled state. We are within 1 or 2 seats of becoming a Democrat-controlled state. Ben Carpenter stepped down. Hopefully, John Hilliard can take that seat. Tom McKay has left, and hopefully Mia can win that seat. Like I said, my opponent, he will go to whatever side wins. But Stanley Wright, Julie Colomb, and Craig Johnson are all kind of sitting on a fence, and any of those can be beat. And we're going to be outnumbered by the Democrats. If that happens, the governor will not have the votes to whatever he vetoes, they will override. So I have a concern that if we do not send conservative Republicans back to the House, and listen to Michael Shower the other day, or Mike Shower, not Michael. Even if all the Republicans win the Senate, we still are only at 9, and that's not going to be that can stop some things and give us a strong minority. But we're going to have to do something to keep from becoming a Democrat-controlled state. And like I said, I have 3 granddaughters and a grandson. So another reason that I got in this is because I have 3 granddaughters. And to have my granddaughter or my wife or my daughter or my mother sitting in a bathroom and having some guy walk in, that's, and it's hard to believe that we have come to the point in history that we have to have legislation to keep a man out of women's bathrooms in women's sports. That to me just doesn't make sense. So, but if it's got to be done, it's got to be done. I want to protect my granddaughters and my daughter and my wife, my mom. So that's going to kind of be a priority. I know there are bills down there. Rep. Allard has a bill, and I would join on that in a heartbeat. So, and my opponent is the one that voted actually to get it out of committee. And thank goodness for Representative Sarah Vance in Judicial, she tabled that bill and it never went anywhere. So
which bill was that? Which one are you talking about specifically?
It was Jamie Allard's bill about keeping boys out of girls' sports and girls' bathrooms. And my opponent voted no recommendation, which is basically a yes vote. And so I believe Tom McKay and Kevin McCabe voted no, and the 3 Democrats voted yes, and my opponent voted no recommendation, which basically gave it a 4-2 vote. So, like I said, there's actually too many issues to take on, one person to take on, but we choose the fight that is the most important. And like I said, right now, getting the conservative Republicans voted into office throughout the state is the probably the most important, because if we don't, we're not going to have. It's not going to matter.
Let's talk for a minute. Yeah, let's talk for a minute about the fiscal plan. The fiscal plan for the state of Alaska, because we know that right now we're facing deficits moving forward. According to the governor's 10-year forecast, it's deficits next year and it's deficits every year moving forward for the next 10 years. So what's the solution there? Is the solution to just keep taking the PFD? Is it, or is there a better way to do this as we move forward?
So, as you can hear, I have dogs.
I can hear you have dogs, yeah.
And they're wanting out. But so representative, hopefully soon to be. Excuse me, 1 second.
All right, we'll let Ron let the dogs out there so that they can get outside and not bug the thing there. There we go.
That ought to hush them up for a few minutes. But when they hear something outside, they all start barking and want out. But,
yep.
But anyway, I am against taxes. Like I said, I want seniors to have this exemption. But I spoke to Donna Ardoin about Ben Carpenter's 2% sales tax. And the only way I would vote for that tax is with this exemption in it and a few other things. It has to have a cap, because if you don't put a cap on it, this year's 2%, next year's 3%, then it's 4%, then it's 5%, and just keeps going up. So there's a lot that has to be involved with any kind of a tax. But according to Donna, that 2% sales tax would raise about $1.25 billion, of which 40% is going to be paid by non-residents. Right now, non-residents don't pay a whole lot.
Right.
And then out of that money, you would reimburse back to the boroughs the difference in what the exemption took out. And that would still leave like $1.17 billion over. So that $1 billion is going to wipe out the deficit. But like I said, there's a lot that has to be looked at. And before I would ever vote for a new tax, but that's one thing to look at.
Right.
But we are going to get a tax. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
Somewhere we are going to get.
We're already being taxed. I mean, they're
Exactly.
taking the PFD. It's a tax. I mean, it may not be an official tax, but it has the same effect.
Exactly.
And that's what we're already facing right now. So, I mean, you mentioned Ben Carpenter and Donna Ardoin. I know Donna's been working with Ben in his office trying to work on this fiscal policy working group plan. Is that a plan that you can get behind? I mean, that has a spending cap, that has a constitutional protection for the PFD, that has a tax, that has some cuts, that has some resource, some new oil company taxes. Is that something you can get behind?
Yeah, I could. I would have to look at it and see if there's anything that I didn't agree with. But that fiscal policy working group, what they came up with was actually pretty good. And but there's the rule of 21 and 11. So you got to look at that. And sometimes that 21 and 11 plus the governor is hard to get. So like the gentleman mentioned earlier, I couldn't even get a hobo gym bill out of the committee. So
we're right. Creating a day that would honor Hobo Jim. You had a bill to get that out.
Yep. But anyway, yeah, that getting behind Ben's bill, and we talked about it when I was there, and I was on board with it. But like I said, there's some other things that I would like to see involved in it that would help. So I just think that seniors, if that exemption bill would keep one senior from getting kicked out of their home, then it's well worth it. So
right. Well, you and I have talked about you and I share a similar passionate hatred for property taxes, because you can never ever own what you own, right? I mean, you could have your house paid off or your property paid off for 40 years, and you're still begging the government's permission to live there because
Yep.
you have to pay them their tithe every year to live there. There should be a different way. There should be a better way. And I don't think that's something that could be solved in a single session or with a single legislator, but there ought to be some kind of movement to say we should look to some other way of funding it rather than through and that's more of a local issue than a state issue. But
Right.
it is, that's a huge problem. I mean, when can you ever own your stuff, your property? When can you ever own it?
What happened to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? So, this, so far, I've written out almost $10,000 worth of property tax payments this year. And, I turned 65, so I got a $300,000 exemption on the peninsula, which is great. But when I did, our assessor came down and says, "Oh, your property is worth, $1 million." Well, that kind of wipes out that exemption. So, when you're paying $10,000 a year in property taxes, I mean, you're looking at $800 a month.
Right. No,
house payment is.
Yeah, no, it gets nuts, especially when you start talking about, well, I'd like to retire and I'd like to retire in Alaska, but can I afford to? Am I better off cashing out and living somewhere else where it's not the property on my fixed income, it's not just going to kill me outright.
Exactly. And here's what I'm seeing is that people that are in the legislation now that will put the taxes on it, by the time it all comes around, they're going to retire, take their money, and they're going to move to another state that doesn't have the taxes. I mean, we've already seen that happen. So, it's going to be a hard pill to swallow to get a tax, but like I said, we will get a tax. How soon? I don't know, but it is coming. Besides the dividend,
right?
If we get a Democrat-controlled legislature, what they're going to do is they are going to combine the fund and the dividend itself all into one account. Now it gives them access to the complete $80 billion, and that's going to last 5 years? And as soon as that goes away, they're going to put in an income tax and then a sales tax. So we have to stop this now, not 5-6 years from now.
Ron Gillham is our guest. Ron, we're down to the last 90 seconds or so. So this is your final elevator pitch. Where do folks find out about you? How do they help you? Can they donate? Can they visit? Can they wave signs? Give us your final elevator pitch here.
So phone number is, of course, area code 907-953-6525. I have a website at www.gillhamforhouse@yahoo.com. No, that's my email, gillhamforhouse.com. And there is a donation link there. That has a lot of my stances on it. And I could use help waving signs on the 5th. Hopefully I get to be here because hopefully the weather's good and I can come home, which I'm planning on. But
well, Ron just froze up there. All right, Ron. You froze up. Thanks so much for coming on board. Hold the line. Folks, we're out of time. We got more coming up tomorrow. For Firearms Friday, JD Too Chilly will be joining us. Willie Waffle, potentially more. We'll see you then. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Sorry about that, Ron, but your internet froze up there for a second and we lost you. So we'll go back to it and we'll continue on here. Give you the last 2-minute bite at the apple here. Anything we didn't hit on, anything else? Now's the time to do it. Go for it.
So the proposition on Proposition 1, vote no. There's we've been talking about. So I had to go get my DOT physical yesterday, and the nurse came in and she started bringing it up, and she was bragging about her and her husband just opened this curio shop. And she's afraid that if this Prop 1 passes, they're going to end up losing their business because they can't afford to pay the minimum wage, and it's going to be raised, and all the other stuff in Prop 1. So, vote no on 1, vote yes on 2, get rid of ranked choice voting. Then vote for Ron Gillham for House, Ben Carpenter for Senate, Nick Begich for Congress, and Donald Trump for president. Like I
All
said,
right.
if we don't do something, we're going to be in a world of hurt. And those taxes I mentioned are going to come a lot sooner than expected.
Yeah. All right. Well, rank the red. No on 1, yes on 2, and move on forward from that. Ron Gillham, thank you so much for coming on board. As always, it's good to hear from you, my friend. Thanks for being part of it today.
All right. I appreciate the time, Michael. Have a good day.
Thanks for coming in and seeing us today. All right, folks, we got to go. We're going to wrap things up for today. Tomorrow, again, JD2 Chili is going to be joining us from Reason Magazine. And then next week we got some more candidates. It's going to be a good one, as always. I mean, when is it not a good one, right? When is it not? All right. Well, thank you for coming out. Be kind. Love one another. Live well. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.
Well,